VRChat, the next frontier. These are the experiences from Gunter's universe. His continuing mission? To seek out and connect with VR devs and passionate enthusiasts. To discuss theories, beliefs, and rhetoric of all kind. And to boldly go where no show has ever gone before.
Yeah. Welcome everyone to Gunter's Universe. This is the one and only live talk show broadcasting from the metaverse. Join us here in VRChat every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific to watch the show live in VR. You can also watch the live stream at twitch.tv/Gunter444. Our guest tonight is Dylan Flinn, Director of Investments at Rothenberg Ventures. Rothenberg Ventures invest in frontier technology such as VR, AR, 3D printing, drones, AI, and a lot more. And they've also invested in many startups, including this place right here, VRChat. Thanks for coming out, Dylan. It's great to meet you.
It's great to be in here. I've been in here quite a few times, but never have I had the honor of being a guest on Gunter's Universe, so I'm excited about that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a great time. It's always cool here chilling in the virtual, around the virtual table and talking some VR. And I want you to meet my co-host here, Bob, aka Cause and Effects. He helps me do the show, and he reads a couple news items at the top of the hour. So, Bob, why don't you say hello and give us a few news stories?
Sure. I'm Cause and Effects, bringing you the top VR headlines from this past week. Our top story this week: Gamma Sutra reported today that Amazon has released a beta version of its new game engine. Amazon Lumberyard is a free AAA game engine deeply integrated with AWS and Amazon-owned Twitch with full source.
Interesting.
Lumberyard. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I didn't know. It's hard to know when there's more, actually, so I need to get on the same page as you. But I don't know, I find it's kind of weird. Amazon has a game engine called Lumberyard. Have you heard about this, Dylan?
Yeah, it caught my attention for the first time today as well. I think a lot of us expected it for a while as they started to get into original content and now content enablement, it seemed like. So I'm excited to use it. I'm excited to check it out, but I'm still a big fan of Unity and can't see myself going elsewhere.
Yep.
Lumberyard's core engine is based on the CryEngine licensed from Crytek, though it's a branch, and Amazon is updating or replacing many of the engine's systems. The latest Amazon internal version of the engine also supports Oculus's SDK, though the beta version you can download today does not. Amazon said, quote, "We just need a little time. The engine, after all, is currently in beta." Oculus announced today that pre-orders for Rift-ready PCs and Rift bundles will be starting on February 16th at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. You can pre-order Oculus-ready PCs and Rift bundles from Best Buy, Amazon, and the Microsoft Store starting at $14.99 USD for limited time only. For those who have already pre-ordered the Rift, you'll be able to purchase discounted Oculus-ready PCs in select countries and regions. Claim a discount, check on your order status page, and opt into partner offers if you haven't already. Offer codes will appear on your order status page February 16th.
Nice.
8 different Rift packages have been shown on the Best Buy website today with Asus and Dell PCs, along with Dell-owned Alienware PCs. Starting at $14.99 with also $15.49 with a 19.5-inch monitor, and the top-end model is $3,149. Expected release date is April 23rd and subject to change. Noted in the fine print, Rift and select Oculus-ready desktops are not available for individual retail sale and are not available in stores.
Interesting. Well, I find this great because I have one person, an uncle, that I'm going to send him that way, basically. He has the money, so boom, he can now have the best virtual reality that's possible. What do you think, Dylan?
I think the more the merrier, and the better quality is the better experience. So I'm going to go straight to the top, and understanding a lot of people aren't going to as well. But I think the low end, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 is still pretty accessible to quite a few people. So I'm excited to see who gets it.
I was a little disappointed that they're not going to be available in brick and mortar stores, so people can't actually just go to a store and get it.
Yeah, I think virtual reality has a big marketing problem. You can't really talk about it. You can't even run an ad against it. So I'm not sure how they're going to market it effectively without brick and mortar installations.
I wonder if it's a matter of time, like there's just so much demand for, the Rift with the pre-orders. Let's get those out. Let's make some available, out there with bundled PCs, but maybe they'll support that sort of, give Best Buy some for display models and when they can really take the demand on anyways.
Yeah, I think they're very precarious about who they let give demos to. So if you sell them in brick and mortar locations, you're letting retail associates give demos, and that can not always be a good thing if they're not trained properly.
Right. But then isn't a poor demo, not a poor demo, but I think they could do a good enough demo, which would be better than no demo. But we'll see. So Dylan, thanks for coming on the show. Really excited to talk to you about Rothenberg Ventures, the River program, all of that. But first, I'd like to just start things off with, the background on you, and also like background on Rothenberg Ventures or Ventures.
Awesome. Yeah. So I grew up in California, Southern California, and then kept making my way up north. Went to college in San Luis Obispo, nice, beautiful town in Central Coast. But the allure of technology from San Francisco kept pulling me up north. So I started a company in college, and that company led me to Electronic Arts, where I was a product marketer for Battlefield, FIFA, and a couple other mobile titles as well. Spent 2.5 years doing a lot of game marketing, user acquisition, and then ultimately realized I wanted to be with smaller software companies and help them grow from the ground up. So I joined a venture firm that was started by my friend Mike at a time when he was at Harvard Business School, and he convinced some crazy people to give him some money so that he could invest in startups. So we've been doing that for about 3 years together, and we've been investing in virtual reality for about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half now.
Oh, that's awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun, digging your game background. I'm curious what excites you about VR, and there's all kinds of applications and games, and I'm curious if there is some games coming out that are really hitting your eye.
Yeah, I really like the full spectrum of games. So the casual games like Bazaar and stuff that's coming out of Temple Gates, and I'm also excited to see what Resolution Games does. And then I'm really excited about the high-end stuff like Reload Studios and E-Valkyrie, obviously, and some Gunjack too. I kind of consider in between that somewhere. So I'm going to spend, probably anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour a day playing these games in VR when they start to come out. But, I hope at least half that time will be spent in social applications like VRChat as well.
Sure. And there's a good number of them, and including Oculus's own social app that they've got the social that's kind of out there. I assume they're going to keep expanding on that. So what are your thoughts on, the social VR space?
For me, social VR is about the interaction. I think it's less about just consuming content, standing in front of a 50-foot screen watching Netflix, and more about the people you're with and the creativity that's being expressed and what you can do with those people. I really like Tilt Brush. That's one of my favorite applications, and I imagine like a social layer on top of that would be really amazing. One of the reasons I'm in love with VRChat, obviously, is because of the creative platform it lets people express themselves on.
Yeah.
I don't think Oculus Social and other places will let you do that, so I'm not really interested in watching Netflix with friends as much as I am communicating with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from VRChat and spending 2 years in here, something like Oculus Social definitely didn't interest me that much. And some of the other places, they just don't have the community created experiences that is what's really wowed me about VRChat. It's not really a place to just chat. It's a place to connect. We've seen strong connections made, and just explore each other's kind of imagination and see what people build. It's been an exponential growth, especially since Unity 5 became free like 8 months ago or something.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of applications to consume content in Oculus, and I think what virtual reality needs the most is retention. We need to make sure that people who get
Yep.
these headsets don't just put them in a drawer somewhere after using them once or twice. So I think Oculus is doing a great job making sure that you have a long tail of content from places like Twitch and Minecraft and Netflix. So if you want to come back every day, you can. And then VRChat, we got to make sure that the same thing happens there, and there's new content every week, every day being uploaded, so people can continuously come back to.
That's a great point. That's what it's all about. It's the content, and all of these platforms. It's going to matter. Yeah, I think about that here. Is like, why do people want to come back to the show? Or I run other events like karaoke night. What makes it interesting, fun? How do we get people to come out and participate? It's been early days, so it's been a challenge, but definitely, what kind of content's repeatable is something that I think about.
Yeah, and this is a great example of that.
Going back to just Rothenberg Ventures, who is Mike Rothenberg?
So Mike is the CEO of the firm, and a nice gentleman from Texas, grew up a math Olympian, really smart guy, really bright, and really cares about the entrepreneurial journey. So he's been working with entrepreneurs his entire life. He went to Stanford undergrad, so through there he became friends with, people by the likes of Zuckerberg and Kevin Systrom, and he started to see them start companies and realized that he wanted to do the same of his own, but he wanted to build a company enabling other companies. So he built a venture fund with the help of some of his professors were his first investors, some of his friends, and that sort of stuff. But he very much bootstrapped this venture fund. He left a cushy job in private equity to go take a bigger risk and just go out on his own, couch surf for a little bit. Spent about 6 months raising the first fund, and we've been investing from our LPs ever since.
That's pretty awesome. How big is the team?
We've got about 16 people in-house now that help make new investments, find new companies, but then more importantly, help the companies once we've invested in them. So we have people with varying backgrounds from different tech companies like Google and even Unity that come and they help companies and work directly with them.
So there's a large number of startups that you reviewed and talked with. I'm curious about what that number looks like and what it takes to get picked to be in the River program. So I guess, what's the River program? How many have you seen, and how do you decide how your criteria, or how hard is that?
The data that we have is, we probably have close to 1,000, somewhere between 800 and 1,000 companies that we've spoken with, talked to. And this could be everything from one developer, in their house to, a 5-6 person team, maybe even upwards of that sometimes. But still pretty early because it's VR. And then I'd say about half of those care more about just one piece of content, and they care more about a vision of a company. And they believe in what we believe, which is that virtual reality is a computing platform and a new medium where you can create anything. So, of that, we probably looked at 300 companies very seriously to try and figure out which 10 to 15 companies we'd ultimately invest in. And we're going to keep investing in about 10 to 15 companies in VR every year. And what we really look for is a team. It matters about what's their staying power, how resilient are they, why do they love virtual reality, and how can, one question we always ask every VR entrepreneur is, why is this in VR? Why can't this be on a 2D screen or any other medium? And if they have a good answer to that, I'm usually very interested.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure some of the other people that were getting into that have a VR pitch and have a lot of that criteria but might be missing one or two. Is there anything that comes to mind that was, hard to, you wanted to see make it to the end round, but it didn't quite? Was that multiple times? Is there any stories that stick out?
Well, I really wish we could have invested in Bush, but Google got to him first.
Right. Yeah, that would have been great. I was actually surprised that I just learned that recently. I was like, really?
Yeah, they're doing some great stuff in there with the resources of Google, and Google's got about between 50 and 100 brilliant people now helping them out. So that kind of additional resources helps.
Absolutely. When's the next round of VR, investment? Like, when do people need to get their applications ready?
So the third class of River starts on March 19th, and we're opening up applications. We've been looking at them for about a month and a half now, taking interviews, accepting companies as well, and we'll still be doing that for about 3 or 4 more weeks. So now's a great time to apply and to get in here. And as we say in virtual reality a lot, is that your product is your pitch. So we try as often as possible to see a product and meet a team in order to make a decision.
So are you announcing the next class at like GDC or something like that?
We'll probably do it a bit after GDC. I mean, we procrastinate, so not sure exactly when the class is going to be fully booked and ready, but GDC is probably a good time to do it if we make it by then.
South by
Southwest is also there.
You guys going to be at the SVR Expo again this year?
Yeah, absolutely. We're huge fans of SVR. I mean, Carl was in the room with us when we decided that this might be a good idea to run up an accelerator and bring everyone in-house and do classes of this stuff. So
right on.
We're big supporters of him and everything he does.
So how about some advice on indies, on people starting up? Just, good startup advice, period, and then, what would be good for people trying to get into the River program? What are you looking for?
Well, for indie devs and entrepreneurs in general, I think, a lot of people believe that VR is so early that you can't get customer feedback, but I think that's very much, the misunderstanding. And I'd encourage everyone to get some sort of MVP up, even if it does, it isn't perfect, it makes people a little nauseous, just to start figuring out what works, what doesn't work, what people want to do, what makes them stick, and what makes them comfortable. So get to a product as fast as possible that you can get customer feedback on. And then once you do that, keep getting customer feedback to inform your product roadmap, and that's the best way to create a good product. And like I said, and as it relates to River, your product is your pitch when you're talking to us. We want to see what you've built because we believe that the product is the evolution of you essentially as a founder and a game developer.
What about, obviously networking's a huge deal, and your program, I'm sure, is connecting people to, of course, venture capitalists, but just all kinds of resources, peer resources, I imagine. If you're not getting into the River program, in general, we would recommend indie devs, of course, network, but how could these developers network? What kind of ways could they do that?
Yeah, almost all of the big groups are pretty prevalent on meetup.com. I think SVVR, SFVR, and then there's ones from different cities as well. Upload VR also just got a new collective that they're going to start letting people in. And also Unity, for anyone in San Francisco or elsewhere, Unity is always hosting really good meetups. And I know a couple people who have met their co-founders and fellow game developers there as well.
So meetups, which I couldn't stress more myself. My web job, it worked out really well, and it's working out. My meetups here in VR worked out really well, and of course, being able to go to SVVR and Oculus Connect is just what it's all about. It's a big part of the equation of getting and reaching success. But anything besides those meetups, is that really that's how you really make these connections? Is there, I don't know, any other ways that you've achieved any sort of good network? I mean, LinkedIn, I'm sure, is a site, but I don't think of that as a way that I successfully find new avenues. But I don't know, anything besides meetups?
Well, LinkedIn definitely isn't something to be ignored. I think especially if you look at some of the major companies that produce really good development talent, you look and see who's been there for 2 to 3 years that might be getting a little tired of it and maybe wants to come take on some more risk. That's a possibility for sure. The other thing is to really talk to the nodes and talk to people like Ben Lang and Carl Krantz and people who really know a lot going on, read a lot, and talk to a lot of people because they usually have the answers. So just sending consistent updates, to people like even myself and just saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm up to, and this is what I'm looking for. And if you know anything, let me know. If not, I'll hit you up again in a couple months. I think that stuff goes a long way, and it's worked out for me when I'm looking for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's actually what's worked for me is just reach out to people. Find their email. Most of these people are available on Twitter. Talk to them there. Talk to them on Reddit. The people that are active on Reddit, on the Oculus subreddit, are active and passionate about this. And so for getting guests and people to come into VRChat and talk, that's how I've done it. Just almost like cold emails or whatever are cold, but it's not cold because we're all at the same thing promoting VR. So
Yeah, it works.
everybody's
surprisingly.
open.
I think also, whenever cold emails and cold response have always gone me pretty far in life, as long as you're offering something. Like, for instance, when you call someone and say, hey,
Yeah.
I'd love to offer you to check out this new cool thing and meet these new cool people, that's an offer. So when you're reaching out to someone cold, just
Right.
instead of telling them about yourself, figure out what they are and what they want and offer them something.
Interesting. Yeah. Offer you a good time and a good conversation or whatever the marketing may be at the time. So interesting. Cool.
Whatever they need.
So I was going to ask for some advice on Gunter's Universe, what I'm trying to do here as a virtual talk show. I mean, anything come to mind, like what could I do to bring things to the next level, or actually think of myself as like starting this thing up?
That's a great question. Well, you can convince Graham to put it on mobile, so then that way you can have a more accessible
I know.
audience.
That's not going to happen anytime soon, and I wouldn't want the sacrifice that need to be made to make that. But yeah, about 6 months ago, I was like, oh, if I could get on mobile, I could do the show mobile, one thing, and of course, there'd just be so many more eyeballs.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, people who are ordering these PCs right now. You should find a way to market directly to them. So these people who maybe even are going to go into the brick and mortar stores just to talk to and check stuff out. But I don't know, there's a lot of interesting marketing strategies that you could deploy around. So when someone buys a CV1, one of the first few things they hear about is this weekly chat and this other kind of world that they can hang out in.
Yeah, we got to find our way there, especially as soon as possible. I would, the goal.
I'll help you out. Now that I'm an alumni, it's my responsibility to bring more people in.
Huzzah! Yes. Thanks, man. How about advice on just the noobs? If I'm an amateur Unity guy and I'm just starting to bring in content, I'm actually bringing content here to VRChat because it works out really well, having like a bunch of other people doing the same thing here and some veterans in Unity. My advice to now people learning Unity is come join VRChat's community because we're able to bootstrap people. But any other advices for the noobs that are just so passionate? They've been here since the 80s and 90s, loving VR, and now it's back, and they just wish they could quit their jobs and do this somehow, but they don't know the path.
I think one thing you can do, it's been really valuable for me in my life, is find a mentor. Find someone who's going to take you under their wing. Find someone that you can help, someone that you can learn from. And, you obviously have to offer them something as well. Be willing to work for them. Be willing to help them out. Maybe they're an experienced Unity developer. Maybe they're running their own company. But, you don't need to just immediately jump in and start your own company right away. Maybe you want to get some experience at a startup, work for someone else, learning Unity, learning from someone more senior and experienced, and then go off and do your own thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. A lot of times, I guess these would be interns, but through all this networking opportunities, you just might find that person that, I don't know, after the conference, you talk a lot and you throw back some beers and you just kind of bond, and that could be the person that can help you out. And I think a lot of people might be willing to do that if asked. So I think for myself, I'm like, I should find that sort of situation and just ask.
Yep, definitely.
How do you think the big dogs that are stepping in are going to affect our startups and our indie devs? I guess this more on the gaming side, but still we're seeing Google and Apple are going to be playing a major part here. It's going to get interesting. But I always, since I met so many indie developers in these first 2 years, my heart goes out to them, and I just wonder how it's going to be for them competing against, I don't know, Crytek Games or these other AAA game makers that can just kind of see what's been learned and then just now plop down their major studios on top of VR. And is that going to be troublesome, or is there just enough room for everybody and it's not that big of a concern?
Yeah, it could present some trouble. I think, I've seen internally how slow some of these organizations move at times. So it's always my opinion that small teams that are really good with software and really dedicated to a mission can always beat, a Goliath that has to deal with all this other bureaucracy involved. But, I recommend to a lot of game devs I talk to is just if you don't necessarily need to build a game that 1 million people are going to love. Start by building a game, don't build a game that 1 million people are going to like. Start by building a game that a couple thousand people are going to love, and then go from there. If people love your game, you'll slowly find a larger audience over time because people are going to talk about it. So don't worry too much about trying to compete on numbers and reach, but try worrying about building a product that people love.
Great advice. Very interesting. Why don't we take some time here and, Dylan, we talked about just talking with the audience. You had some questions. I wrote down some here. And I think we talked about, what are people excited to build here in VRChat? That was one of our questions. And so we throw that out to you, the audience, that are hopefully...
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. What are you excited to build here in VRChat? Like we build lots of things here, but going forward, we're maturing here. What kind of things are you interested in building?
I'm interested in building like a type of experience that you can't really find anywhere else. Usually when I was a kid, I wanted to play VR, but it wasn't readily available at all. And I always wanted to experience something different than, reality. Go someplace, slay some orcs, whatever. Have some fun.
Yeah, more interactive content. We've seen a lot more of that happening lately. Cubed and Mr. Q have been working on stuff. What kind of interactive things are you guys working on?
I'm currently working on a Spleef Arena, which is a mini game where you knock blocks out from underneath other players to try to get everyone except for you out. It's a lot of fun. We had our first test run last meetup, and I'm working with a voice actor who volunteered to do some lines for that, so it should be a really cool experience in a few weeks.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Reminds me of Bumper Balls from Mario Party. I like it.
I guess all games here are party games. Is what we essentially are creating. It's a blast.
Can't wait for shooters.
I'm curious to know if anyone in the audience would share, one of the moments when they first realized that they loved VRChat and wanted to keep coming back, and what it was about VRChat that they really loved.
Oh, I love that.
Sure. One of the first meetups I went to, the thing that stood out to me was the community. So I came in, and by the end of the night I was chatting with, I think it was Adam J. He likes 3D printing a lot, does lots of outreach about that. So I just had like a several hour-long conversation in VR with someone about something I was also passionate about. So I think that was a really cool experience I had never really had before, being able to be in this virtual environment where you can have a connection with someone that otherwise you'd have to have in real life. So that's what kept me coming back, the people.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I come back too. And I think it was really fun being able to just like jump around and climb around with everyone and joke around, and we're all like early adopters, and we're all into VR, and it's really great. I mean, this is the killer app right here, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize the social. So this
It
is
spreads
like
to the other social VR apps too. Like those are hella fun people all over the place. So I enjoy spending time in VRChat and others. And you see, like the social VR people kind of go, and they are social butterflies to these other apps as well. So social, yeah, like you're saying, is a killer app, and for me it has been just meeting people, tons of people, connecting with people. It's changed my life because of that.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd say like one of the defining strengths of social VR though is getting people to meet together based on their like interest, right? It's definitely one of the strengths that I think VRChat can focus on and try to amplify on as well.
Yeah, it's like meetups, except that happen immediately, right away. You don't have to drive physically anywhere to meet up. You just plug in and you're there.
Unfortunately, I gotta deal with time zones. Mr. Q's like 3 o'clock in the morning right now. 5 in the morning.
Wow.
You're
I don't
dedicated,
want
you.
I don't want to know his
Dedication.
sleeping pattern. No, it's horrible.
One thing, I couldn't agree more that social is the killer app for VR, and it's just right under our nose, literally. One of the things that I think about a lot is comparing it on a spectrum. On one side of the spectrum, you have the way people communicate over phones with pretty much nothing interactive, and then on the other side, you have people in person. And then somewhere in between, you have virtual reality and the ability to feel present with other people. Collective presence is maybe one of the most powerful things. What kind of things do you think that needs to happen on the software and the hardware side of the technology in order to get us closer to feeling like we're actually in person in an even deeper sense of collective presence?
Yeah, when we get our touch controllers and more, it's going to get quite rich in here, and it's already convincing. I mean, I feel like I'm talking with all of you and at this table here doing a show, and it never surprises me, but it seems surprising to the guests that have never tried anything like this, just that they're blown away, that they forget about the real world and they're completely pay attention to what's happening here.
Yeah, I think eye tracking will help too, because you'll be able to see where your buddies are looking at, and that's like a big cue that the human brain picks up on. I mean, just three dots tracking like your head and your hands and like your torso and inverse
I
schematics.
can't wait for that.
I mean, the human brain just automatically just figures it out. That fills in the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait.
So we got a little bit more time. Any audience questions, or just want to chime in on things we've talked about? Throw anything out there. It's all good.
Oh yeah, I got one. Let's see. I wrote it down. Where the hell I put it? Oh yeah.
Wrote it down.
Yeah. What are your professional opinions on branding for new players in the market, or want to get their product noticed or stand out?
That's a good question. I think too often we see a lot of people in VR and other areas of deeper technology kind of pass over marketing and branding, but I do think that branding starts by understanding your customer and who your customer is really, really well. One of the first things I wanted to help Graham do was have a one-on-one discussion with almost everyone that uses VRChat to really find out what it is they love about VRChat, but also go level deeper and understand who his audience is and what are the types of people. And then once you know their audience, you know what they look for, you know what brings them together, you know what they like, and you can associate your brand with that. And I think a brand also comes from a vision. So you have to figure out why you're building your company and what it is about your company that makes you different, and essentially that's your brand.
Oh, that was an awesome question. Answer, I mean, thank you.
I heard Mike Rothenberg say that we won't be defined as like VR companies or applications, but that like Solirax that's doing education in VR will be just a company that does education and specializes in VR as the technology it uses. Or VRChat could be, not a VR application, but a communication tool that's, focused on VR as its delivery method. I kind of like taking the VR kind of out of it. I don't know. I find that that's probably what the nomenclature is going to be like in the future.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Any other questions before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I was wondering what you thought about non-gaming in Rothenberg. So, I mean, I saw a headline today saying something like gaming was going to be $5 billion of VR gaming in 2016, and certainly that's what most of us are excited about here. We talked a lot about social, but what are some of the other areas that you guys are interested in?
Yeah, that's something I didn't bring up. There's a variety of things. Dylan, we're not hearing you. I think maybe you muted yourself, or maybe you have to push the V key down, or hopefully you haven't ran into another major mic trouble.
How does that work? Better?
There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, we're very, very interested. Hold on, let me try and get back down on this thing.
Yeah, see if you can hold that right click, take a look, and then
talk dirty to it.
Perfect. She listened. Okay, so I think we're very interested in non-gaming applications. We've, one company we invested in, a company called Sios, that's doing exposure therapy in virtual reality. So for people who have fear of flying, fear of driving, or fear of needles, you can be exposed to that fear and get over it through the help of a therapist. Nothing could do that for you like virtual reality. And virtual reality can also simulate training. It could help you through surgeries. It could do a whole lot of stuff in the healthcare industry. And then past that, I think, art and design is something that I'm very interested in. When you look at stuff like Unity and even and the other engines out there, you can look at them as game development engines, but you can also view them as something much larger than that, an ability to create 3D. And I think from that, it creates a whole bunch of different applications outside of the gaming.
That reminds me of, like, there are other non-VR companies that you're supporting that are other frontier companies. Is there a few that you could throw out that are just pretty interesting that us people that are focused on VR might not have heard of?
Yeah, I think one area that we're investing a lot in is machine learning and intelligent systems through artificial intelligence, because now as we live, 2015, we live in a time where we can collect these vast amounts of data from sensors and from inputs and online and everything. But now is the first time ever in the history of mankind that we really can manipulate the data and learn from it. So we've invested in a couple companies. One is a company called Tissue Analytics that does machine learning on top of wound care, so that they can figure out what your how your wound's regressing over time just by taking a picture of it. And that's an intensive amount of computing and data needed in order to make that happen.
Cool. Love it.
I have another question.
All right, yeah, let's do one more question.
How does one find a company that shows potential for investment in VR? Like, out of the blue, where would you find stuff like that?
I read a lot, so I spend a lot of time on Road to VR, Upload VR, and other blogs, and just the indie blogs too, to see what people are building. A lot of time on Reddit, Oculus. But really, I think most of the great companies have come to us because we've done, a decent job. We could always do better at just making sure people know who we are and what we care about. And if you consistently let people know what you care about, next time they hear, oh yeah, I know someone who cares about that, they're likely to help you out in that situation. So we make sure that everyone knows what we're looking for, and because of that, we get, a lot of good stuff comes to us as well as us going out there.
Excellent. Great question. All right, Dylan.
Thank you.
Yes, Trav.
I'm curious, in regards to the slew of social VR applications that are stirring up now, what is it that you think VRChat is uniquely positioned to do? And on top of that, what are some interesting aspects of social VR, like the most valuable thing in social VR that you think VRChat might be able to tie to pull it through or show recognition as compared to the other social VR apps that are starting up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one thing that has always stood out to me about VRChat is it's the creative expression outlet that it is. I think even if you look around this room that we're in right now, this couldn't exist in any other platform in the exact same way with all of us inside of it. So I look at that and I think, what else is there? Everyone in this room right now has an idea of somewhere they'd like to be, and with VRChat, you can create that. So I really like the ability. UGC is something that I've always been a fan of. My idea around technology is to build something and then let the people really figure out what it's for, and VRChat really lets you do that. The most valuable, part of social is the interactivity and the communication too. I really like the fact that we all have our own identities in here through avatars and through, our own tribes that we're a part of, and I think I see that forming in VRChat faster than anyone else.
Awesome. Well, Dylan, I know you gotta get going here soon. I don't want to keep you too long, but I want you to go ahead and plug whatever you'd like to plug.
Oh man, what I really care about plugging is virtual reality, but anyone
sure.
who's interested in building a company or perhaps even joining a company in virtual reality and wants to work in virtual reality, feel free to email me, reach out to me. I'm just Dylan at Rothenbergventures.com. That's DYLAN at Rothenbergventures.com. And I look forward to interview you all. I got to say thank you to you guys, especially because this has been a lot of fun, and I'll be back very soon as a just a viewer and a spectator of the next one, because I had a lot of fun here, and this is unlike anything I've ever done in my life, so I appreciate that.
Do you have a Twitter?
I do. It's just at Flindustries. I like to do a lot of plays on my last name, as you can see. So the Twitter handle is Flindustries, FLINNDUSTRIES.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming out, and yeah, don't be a stranger, come back out. We're doing all kinds of fun events, so thank you, and thanks, Bob, for always helping on the show, reading some news, keeping it real. You have a good night.
No problem.
Thanks, Bobo.
And as
I'll
usual,
have a good night. We're family now.
That's right. And come back out to the Sunday meetups, and thanks everybody on the Gunters Universe team, all my Patreons, and everybody that came out tonight. Really appreciate it. You have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday on Gunters Universe. Take care. Oh yeah.
That was a good episode.
Yeah, well, it's time to stretch the legs. Oh. Dylan, where'd you go?
He really had to go.
He really had to go.
I'll be talking to him later.
He was messaging me. He said, "Man, I gotta pee, dude. I gotta really go." And I was like, "Okay, I'll wrap the show up." No. He had a dinner he had to get to, so trying my hardest to get things started on time.
Oculus' new add-on would be a catheter.
Wait, where did that just come from?
What's that?
Are we playing football?
I did.